Hello everyone, this is Professor Hill. It's a short video for our class Introduction to Ethics Philosophy 2306 here at St. Philip's College for the Maymester of 2021. And today's Friday, the 28th of May. I graded the last assignment that was turned in Wednesday night, yesterday, Thursday, and today, Friday. Finished grading those essays, and they looked really great. So you guys are on the right track. So this is fantastic, which is really good because we now have less than a week to go. We're going to finish this whole thing next Thursday. So we are literally under a week to go in this very short, concentrated class. But what that means is we've got two more essays. I got one coming up Sunday night, and I want to talk a little bit about that right now. And then Thursday, that'll be the finale. A couple of quick things. Number one, don't forget that last essay due Thursday night, the last day of class, that's the final exam. There's not a separate test that gets posted or something. I've had a couple of students ask me that. So the final essay, the final discussion that you post, that is also the final requirement for the class. So when you finish that, posting the essay and commenting on at least two of your classmates, that's when you'll be finished. So I want to say a couple things about the essay due Sunday night. I know it's Memorial Day weekend. Sorry about that. Again, it's just the nature of it being a short class. At least, you have the weekend to work on it. Or at least some of you. I know lots of you are working the whole dang time. But here's the point. This is a complicated case. It's got a lot kicking around in it. And what I mean by that is it's an older case because it was the Nash family, Jack and Lisa, were really kind of the first couple to really be presented with the technology to create the first of what is now a commonplace thing, which is to have savior siblings. When their daughter is born, again, the short version is when their daughter was born with significant health issues and problems, they were able to address some immediately. She had to have surgery on a hole in her heart. There are some things that they couldn't do right away, couldn't address. Like she had problems with one of her arms where her limbs was malformed. But it turns out that the big problem was the Fanconi anemia. This was the disease which, even though infants and toddlers can survive, it's the short version is, and you'll see in the module, there's an explanation about this. It's an impairment of your body's ability to create blood and sustain a blood supply for you. So when you're born and you're small, you have enough blood supply. And again, it's not like your bone marrow is completely unable to produce it. It's just not at 100%. Which when you're small, a little baby, little toddler, that's okay. But when you hit adolescence and you begin to grow and your body begins to grow very quickly, your bone marrow needs to be able to scale up the production. And because it's inhibited, that just creates all kinds of problems with cascade. And at the time that their daughter was born, little Molly, it was just essentially a death sentence. There was no treatment. There's no cure. And the doctors just tried to prepare parents for the fact that this was a terminal illness, that by the time the children reached, 8, 9, so I think the oldest ones lived to 11 or 12, but by that point, it became fatal. And that's why it was important when the Nash family, Jack and Lisa, were approached by a doctor who said, I've got an experimental treatment. I think I can help you. And the doctor basically says to them, look, it's going to be controversial. It's going to be really ethically questionable. They're like, well, but of course they're parents who are desperate to save the life of their child. So they're like, what is it? He says, well, we can do this, bone marrow transplant. And they're like, well, yeah, somebody mentioned that, but you have to have a perfect match, and we've tested ourselves and the family, there's no match. So it's not an option. And the doctor says, oh no, see, that's the thing, which is we'll just create a perfect match. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he says, well, I've got a way to test. What we'll do is we'll go through the in vitro fertilization process, which has been developed to help couples conceive children. They take egg, sperm, put them together in a laboratory, artificial insemination. They get in there and create tiny little cytoblasts, little fertilized egg cells. And his point was, I have a test where we could screen out not just for the Fanconi anemia, which a sibling might have, but also we can do the matching. We can find the perfect sibling. We'll just create that sibling. That's the perfect match for Molly. And you'll know that they'll be able to be the tissue match that we need. And then when they're born, all I'll need is the stem cells out of the umbilical cord. And so there's no ongoing painful treatment or anything to the new child. All we need is that umbilical cord. And so what you need to do is, get into the lab, and we'll just create this baby and this is the thing, as a medical therapy for your child, Molly. We'll create a human being as a medical instrument. These are some profound questions. Why do people have children? Is it okay to have children for any reason? Is it okay to have a child as an instrument to help another person? In this case, Molly? Well, they're desperate. They're like, well, no, look, let's have another kid. So, they I think appropriately named that kid Adam, who was indeed the first ever savior sibling. Literally screened, created, and then screened, implanted, grown specifically to save a sibling. Hence the term savior sibling. So it's, and listen, when I say there's all kinds of issues in here, this raises questions of eugenics, which is the process of develop. It's like what we do with dog breeding, where we would breed certain characteristics in animals by controlling every aspect of their life cycle. Well, now we're going to take that kind of thinking and technology and bring it to human beings and say, well, we'll do it in a certain way to get this particular, combination of genes, so we can use that as a medical treatment. Listen, we have a long, bad, tragic, terrible history with eugenics. I mean, a lot of people kind of write it off and think about it as, the Germans, the Nazis or something. But no, look, just check the Wikipedia entry on eugenics in the United States, and you'll be shocked. Look at the good family contests that we used to have. Oh my God, better family. Just check it, you'll be shocked. So my point is simply that, listen, there are significant ethical issues that are raised by this case. Big ones. So don't just jump to a quick conclusion. Think about the moral theories we've been looking at and reading about in the textbook and how they apply to some really fundamental questions here. Because again, Jack and Lisa, they talk to the doctors, they talk to the lawyers, they talk to the rabbi and gets their family members. They're trying to get advice about this. They go out of their way to make a slow, determined, prudent decision, and yet it's one which many people disagreed with. But at the time, now it's become a commonplace occurrence. It's something which regularly happens in the United States. It's not even newsworthy anymore. And one last thing to think about as you're looking at this. A lot of people look at the parents and their daughter who's sick, Molly, and they say, look, they did this. They created a new baby. The baby had the magic cells to where they could cure Molly. And then they have two healthy kids, Adam and Molly. They're both, in fact, they actually later on went back and used the same in vitro process to have a third child. So they say, look, it's a happy ending. What could be wrong with this? But you know, in vitro fertilization itself is controversial in that it ends up, it's difficult for people. There are a number of people that believe life, not just life, but personhood, begins at conception. The Roman Catholic Church famously says life begins at conception. So from that moment, you're talking about, from the moment we're talking about a fertilized egg cell, I said, no, that's a person with full rights. And in this case, they were creating lots of these and then screening them out and then just taking the ones they needed to advance to the next stage for implementation. And so literally implanting them in the mom, Lisa, and then growing through the gestation process, take to term a baby who could then be used to treat Molly. But again, also, it wasn't like they just, took the umbilical cord and then put the kid up for adoption. They loved their son. And to this day, like I said, they had a third child. They're healthy. They're happy. They have no regrets whatsoever about their decision to do this and create the world's first savior sibling. But it was controversial then and still is. Like I said, it's commonplace now, but it doesn't mean it's any less controversial, especially given the techniques involved with in vitro fertilization. So that's the case. Read about it, think about it, write about it, and when you submit your essay, comment on at least 2 of your friends or your classmates there. If you do have questions, send me a message, and I look forward to talking to you some more. Take care. Bye-bye.